Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the haul of guns found in the home of a former A&E consultant, along with an assassination list. Martin Watt is found guilty of possessing them with intent to endanger life. The UK government publishes a list of EU powers that won't come directly back to Scotland. The Scottish government says it's proof of a power grab. We speak to the surgeon who's been hailed a superhero for trekking through the snow last week to operate on a cancer patient.
When she walked in, my heart took a wee jump. I think it's the easiest way to say it, because this was the lady that was going to do my operation. She was here.
Also on the programme, Jeremy Corbyn denies claims of a stitch-up among party activists as he appears at the Scottish Labour conference.
We'll be live in Dublin ahead of Scotland's Six Nations match against Ireland.
And just 5 years after the last once-in-a-lifetime sighting, another Arctic walrus is spotted in Orkney. Good evening. A former hospital consultant has been found guilty of possessing firearms with intent to endanger life. Martin Watt used to work in the Accident and Emergency Department of Monklands Hospital. A stash of weapons, including 3 machine guns and 2 pistols, was found in his Cumbernauld home. Dr. Watt lost his job after a disciplinary hearing and subsequently compiled a list of people he was thinking about killing. Katrina Renton reports.
A raid on the Cumbernauld house he was living in revealed the extent of Martin Watt's collection of weapons. Among them, 3 submachine guns, 2 self-loading pistols, and over 1,500 live rounds of ammunition. And this envelope with the title "Bad Guys" on it. Inside, Dr. Watt had lists of names and addresses of people he said were involved in his dismissal from his consultant post with NHS Lanarkshire. He said he had had bad thoughts and had made plans to assassinate these people. He told the court that making his own gunpowder was easy, and he adapted some ammunition which made it more lethal and could create maximum damage. He said he took inspiration from this film, Killer Elite, a violent film about mercenaries. But he told the court he had no intention of carrying out the assassination plans. Playing out the retribution game on paper gave me some sort of comfort, he said.
Well, it's difficult to give precise figures.
This was Dr. Martin Watt working the night shift at the busy Accident and Emergency Department at Monklands Hospital in Airdrie. He was talking to BBC's Panorama about sectarian violence and the horror he had seen.
At least 1, 2, 3 people have been slashed in the face. A barmaid who was injured got caught in the crossfire.
Dr. Watt was a consultant at Monklands Hospital for around 18 years. He worked for the health service for over 30 years. He was dismissed after a disciplinary hearing in 2012. He subsequently took early retirement. Previously a keen climber, after losing his job, guns and shooting became his main focus. His internet searches showed how he'd investigated how to make a homemade gun silencer, how to make explosives, how to kill someone, and make your own disguises. In the months leading up to his arrest, he said he would frequently practice shooting one of the machine guns on rough ground near where he lived. It took the jury just under an hour and a quarter to find Dr. Watt guilty of possessing firearms and ammunition with the intent of endangering life. Dr. Watt waved at supporters in the public gallery as he was led away.
Our priority throughout the process has been to ensure that our staff have been supported, and I know that they're all relieved that the trial is now over. I would like to thank the officers of Police Scotland who secured this conviction and ensured that no one has come to any harm.
A man who devoted his professional life to saving lives in the health service, then made plans which could have seen others lose theirs. Katrina Renton, reporting Scotland at the High Court in Glasgow.
The UK government has published a list of 24 areas where it wants temporarily to take control of devolved powers coming back from Brussels. It also claims that if UK-wide arrangements aren't introduced, prices could go up. The Scottish Government says London is planning a power grab. It's already introduced alternative legislation at Holyrood. Here's our political correspondent, Nick Eardley.
When we leave the EU, Scotland's fishermen want the UK to control its waters. But who should hold that power? The UK government wants authority over quotas and access to waters, at least for a while. It also wants to freeze laws on animal control, so different rules aren't introduced in different parts of the UK. That's despite fisheries and agriculture both being devolved. Other areas where the UK wants to hold some powers when they return include food labelling, elements of agriculture, including GM crops, some areas of environmental quality, chemical regulation and public procurement. Under the plans published by the Cabinet Office today, the majority of powers will go straight to Holyrood.
This shows the approach that the UK government is intending to take, and I hope very much continue to work in partnership with the devolved governments in getting the right way forward on all the detail.
But he believes not maintaining the same rules would be costly for business.
Those costs have to be met somewhere. Well, you can try and cut staff, or you can try and add a bit more onto the price your consumer pays. And so it's lose-lose if you go down that path.
The Scottish Government's always said it has no problem with the idea of UK-wide arrangements, but its concern is that under these plans published today, power over them would lie here at Westminster. It thinks the Scottish Parliament needs more of a say.
The fact that the UK Government is prepared to ride roughshod over its previous commitment to seek an agreement from the Scottish Government and is prepared to grab powers back to Westminster as a consequence of Brexit makes the securing of an agreement ever more difficult.
When we hear language like power grab or hear things discussed in generalised, elevated terms, we want to bang heads together. Let's have statements of what we think ought to be fixed, and let's set about fixing them.
Getting ready for Brexit isn't an easy job. The UK and Scottish governments will continue to try and find agreement on how we prepare for leaving the EU. Nick Eardley reporting Scotland, Westminster.
A surgeon who trekked through the snow for almost 3 hours during last week's red weather alert to operate on a cancer patient is being hailed a superwoman by the man she treated. Lindsay Chisholm walked 8 miles from her home in the west of Glasgow to the hospital in Paisley, but she insists many NHS staff made heroic efforts to get to work. Katie Hunter has the story.
Lindsay Chisholm's operated on thousands of patients at the Royal Alexandra Hospital. The consultant surgeon's also a winter sports enthusiast, which was useful when this happened.
Top story this morning, Scotland continues to battle the beast from the east.
Police Scotland say all travel should be avoided in the red alert area unless it's absolutely essential.
Lindsay's journey was essential. She and her theatre team were due to operate on a cancer patient.
I've got decent equipment and decent clothing. I've also got a pair of snowshoes, and I thought I could just get up and walk to work. Having cycled it, I've got a fair idea of the distance that's involved. So I got up early on Thursday morning, so there was quite a lot of snow, but didn't look impossible. So I thought I'd just get up and head into work.
Much to the relief of Ian McAndrew from Paisley. He was the patient Lindsay was operating on.
I was gobsmacked when she made it in. I really was. When she walked in the door, I was really surprised. I was expecting somebody to say the nurses hadn't come in and it would snowball for there. When she walked in, my heart took a wee jump. I think it's the easiest way to say it, because this was the lady that was going to do my operation. She was here. But to be told she'd walked, she told me herself that she'd walked it, and she was still standing in the clothes on that she'd walked in, and I thought it was amazing.
Lindsay's 8-mile trek began in the west end of Glasgow, just after 5:30 in the morning. Her journey took her through the Clyde Tunnel. This was the only place on her walk to work where she had some respite from the weather. Lindsay eventually arrived here at the hospital at around 8:30, 2 hours and 50 minutes after she'd set off.
I didn't think it was much of a big deal. I just put my winter kit on and walked to work, and it's as if the world's gone mad.
But joking aside, it was a big deal for Ian.
If there's a real live superwoman, she's it. For me, anyway.
A superhuman effort for which Ian is very grateful. Katie Hunter, reporting Scotland, Paisley.
At the Scottish Labour Conference, Jeremy Corbyn has warned that he won't sign up to any deal with the European Union that thwarts his plans to intervene in British industry. But he dismissed claims of a leadership stitch-up over Brexit debates at the conference. Here's here's our political editor, Brian Taylor.
Jeremy Corbyn MP, leader of the Labour Party.
After entering the hall through a back door, Jeremy Corbyn went on the front foot in vaunting his party's revived prospects.
Labour in Scotland is back.
But as ever, the big issue is Brexit. Jeremy Corbyn may have campaigned to remain in the EU, but his political history is one of sporadic Euroscepticism. Today, perhaps, he explained why.
We cannot be held back, inside or outside the EU, from taking the steps we need to develop and invest in cutting-edge industries and local businesses and stop the tide of privatisation and outsourcing.
Mr Corbyn's economic plan involves nationalisation, starting with the railways and postal services, plus the power to intervene in industry, including state aid. He now backs a customs union with EU countries and wants tariff-free trade. But plainly, he fears that too close a continuing connection with the EU could thwart those plans.
It would therefore be wrong to sign up to a single market deal without agreement that our final relationship with the EU would be fully compatible with our radical plans to change Britain's economy for the better.
Mr Corbyn said the top priority remained jobs. No dissent from that on the conference fringe, but Euro enthusiasts say protecting jobs through trade needs membership of the single market.
I think we need to be honest about what leaving the European Union actually means for people in Scotland. I think there's unity in the Labour Party about uniting to protect jobs, protect livelihoods, but the only way we can do that is by ensuring that we remain part of not just a customs union but the single market too.
As the sun shone on delegates, a big shadow loomed. A vote on the single market was scheduled, but the party's Scottish executive partly preempted that with a statement on updated Labour policy. To be clear, delegates can still vote on the issue of a single market, but only if they overturn that executive statement first. Critics say it's a stitch-up. The leadership says it's democracy.
This is an open, democratic conference with lots of new members, and it's the biggest conference for years.
But the motion depends upon your perspective, of course. At Abertay University, the Labour leader encountered virtual reality, but he's decidedly grounded about seeking power.
We will go further than any government has ever gone before.
After a slightly slow start, delegates applauded warmly, as did the man himself.
And Brian is in the conference hall in Dundee at the moment. Brian, as predicted, Brexit dominating proceedings and another row about it tonight?
Yeah, a little bit of a stooshy. We heard earlier from the rostrum there at the conference here in the Caird Hall from Leslie Laird. She's the Shadow Scottish Secretary for the party at Westminster. One of the things she was demanding was publication of the detailed documents by the UK government on that row over Brexit powers that are due to be transferred to Scotland. It was potent stuff. She wanted the shroud of secrecy stripped away. The only snag is that shroud had indeed been torn back this morning, 3 hours before she spoke. These things, conferences can be confusing and distorting places.
Brian Taylor, thank you very much. The family of missing Inverness man Liam Colgan say they firmly believe he's still alive, almost a month since he disappeared in Hamburg. The 29-year-old hasn't been seen since he became separated from his brother's stag party. Pubs in Liam's hometown will come together this weekend with efforts to support the family's search. Ian McInnes reports.
A month ago tonight, celebrations in full flow in Hamburg. But within hours, Liam Colgan had disappeared. He was last seen in these CCTV pictures on the 10th of February. Liam's brother Raymond has from day one been highlighting the case both abroad and at home. But how hopeful is he that Liam will be found?
I do constantly remain hopeful. I'm quite an optimistic person as it is, so I'm not going to stop being optimistic about this. I owe it to Liam to continue being hopeful and being confident that we'll find him.
So in that respect, you believe firmly that he's still walking this earth and he's out there to be found?
Definitely, yeah. There's no doubt in my mind. We need to believe that, because if we stop believing that, then our chances of finding him will diminish.
Another milestone for the Colgan family, a month since Liam's disappearance. But each day, week and month that passes without news of Liam brings its own challenges. They say, like any family in this situation, that their search will continue. Ian McInnes, reporting Scotland in Inverness.
You're watching BBC Reporting Scotland. It's just coming up to 16 minutes to 7. A reminder of tonight's top story. The haul of guns found in the home of a former A&E consultant, along with an assassination list. Martin Watts found guilty of possessing them with intent to endanger life. And still to come, we look ahead to the Old Firm weekend as Rangers host Celtic at Ibrox. Could a new dentistry tool developed in Scotland mean an end to the drill? This one can spot decay early, allowing patients and dentists to act before cavities appear. Maura Kinneborough has this report.
Just going to have a wee look at this tooth. Okay, so we've got this new device. It's like a camera which you hold over your tooth.
Could this device replace the need for drills and fillings? The Calcivis system flashes a light against teeth to reveal calcium decline.
You okay? Yeah. A bit suspicious in the mouth.
The image appears on a screen showing early signs of decay.
It lets us see the very early stages of decay before it develops into an actual cavity, and gives us an opportunity to employ preventive measures which will then allow the tooth to hopefully remineralise and prevent a hole starting in the first place.
The idea was developed when researchers applied a link between marine luminescence and calcium to human teeth.
We think it's revolutionary because we're actually using a biotechnology product in dentistry for the first time. So at the heart of this technology is a photoprotein that reacts with calcium to produce light, and that's similar to proteins that are used in nature by marine organisms to signal to each other. So it's completely different from any imaging system that dentistry has seen before.
This groundbreaking new system can be used to detect tooth decay on children as young as 6, so that dentists can then treat the tooth and avoid the need for so many drills and fillings.
Wide as you can for me. That's perfect.
The device is being launched across the UK this week to private practices, though they're talking to the NHS and American dentists too. But what do patients think?
The device has showed me where the holes are and where I need to brush more. I'm not getting like the fillings and the cavities anymore.
The inventors argue their device moves away from drill and fill dentistry to preventative ways of caring for teeth in future.
That's great, well done.
Maura Kinneborough, reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Rugby, and a big weekend ahead in the Six Nations as Scotland take on Ireland in Dublin tomorrow. Win and Scotland go into the final day with a shot at the title. Lose and their chances are over. Let's cross live to Dublin's Aviva Stadium and join our rugby reporter Andy Burke. Andy.
Well, Sally, Scotland are flying after beating England in the Calcutta Cup last time out. But it is Ireland who are the big favourites here tomorrow. They are the number 3 team in the world. They've won 3 from 3 in this season's championship so far. And they have the Grand Slam very much in their sights. Six Nations weekends here are always full of colour, passion, and now for home fans, expectation. After all, their team is 2 matches from a Grand Slam, and this match has drawn fans from near and far.
Where do you come from?
New York City.
Same. And you're here to support Ireland?
Yes. Yeah.
How do you see the game going?
I think Ireland will get it done. I think there's not much chance that they'll rest. They'll want to get some revenge for last year, what happened to Murrayfield.
If there's ever any year it's going to be this year, I reckon we've got it in the bag. If the boys play like they've been playing, happy, forward, fun, bit of speed, I reckon we can do it. And you are husband and wife, yeah?
Yes.
And who are you supporting?
Ireland.
Yourself?
That would be Scotland.
Pretty confident. I mean, Scotland are playing well, but we've got home advantage. Ireland are playing well. I think it could be tight, but no, Ireland are going to take it.
We always like to put a little bit of a twist on things when we come over. Obviously Scotland haven't been playing so well away from home, but I think coming on the back of the English game, we're in as best position as we ever could be.
Well, that famous win over England has given everybody involved in the Six Nations food for thought.
It was a great win. We were all delighted for the win, but then we were like, we got to think about this now. Listen, what a result. They just went out and they played chaotic rugby and they just upset England's game plan, and that's the key. Ireland can get involved with that.
You know, Scotland have so much confidence at the moment, and if there's a time ever to upset the home nation, then I think this Saturday's it.
The stakes may be high for Ireland, but this match is no less important for the Scots.
I think it is one of the most important in recent years, and I think that comes with the added pressure that people are talking about. But we want to have pressure like this. This is what we have worked for the last 6 years, to be involved in games at this end of the season that are this important.
Scotland extinguished England's Grand Slam hopes last time out. Now they hope it is they, rather than the Irish, who will be partying in Dublin on Saturday night.
In football, it's the Old Firm weekend. Ibrox Stadium will be packed out as Rangers host Celtic. The home side have failed to beat their rivals in the last 8 matches, but could this be the one? Here's Chris McLaughlin.
This weekend, on the south side of Glasgow, we will witness a familiar noise and colour. All the tension and passion that goes along with the Old Firm fixture. But the build-up to this one has felt a little different. After years of Celtic domination, this one doesn't quite have the feel of a mismatch. In terms of Graham Murty versus Brendan Rodgers, it's 2 games and 2 draws. But it's recent form that's intriguing. Since the beginning of the year, Rangers have taken 19 points from 7 games played. Celtic have played 1 game fewer, but trail on 13 points. Today, Graham Murty said, in the form we're in at the moment, we are capable of causing anybody problems. This was the last match-up at Ibrox, a fairly comfortable Celtic 2-0 win. Goals from Tom Rogic and Lee Griffiths. In fact, it's 6 years since Rangers triumphed over their rivals at home.
I think, of course, they've got a number of new players that have come in January, so this will be their first sort of sample of the pressure that involves the game, and it is a totally different game. But like I say, we respect their qualities and try to focus on our own game.
This is here and this is now. But can his opposite number get the better of him?
The job he's done is remarkable. They go into the game full of confidence, with belief. We knew that Celtic weren't going to be able to repeat last season. That was a one-off. They set incredible standards. They've dropped below them at times this season, and it's given Rangers the opportunity to close that gap a wee bit. But I still feel if both teams play as well as they can, Celtic are a better side.
I think February the 5th, Rangers were 14 points behind Celtic. Now they've got the opportunity to go 3 points behind.
There have been many dark days here, but also lots of false dawns. Victory for Rangers on Sunday, though, would be a huge milestone in the journey back to where they so desperately want to be. At last, there's some expectation. Now, they have to live up to it. Chris McLaughlin, reporting Scotland, Ibrox.
An Arctic walrus has turned up off the coast of Orkney. It's unusual for walruses to be seen so far south. Our reporter David Delday set out to find it.
A long way from home. Meet Wally, weighing in at over a tonne. You'd expect to find him closer to the North Pole than you would Orkney. But at the moment, he's taking a well-earned rest after a very long swim. Last night, he turned up in North Ronaldsay. This morning, he made it to neighbouring Sandy.
Oh, I was actually on my way down to the ferry this morning when I heard the news and very quickly changed my plans. The whole island is absolutely buzzing from it. It's fantastic. It's definitely a male, and we're fairly sure it's an adult, but he looks very healthy, so that's good.
Experts say they are surprised to see the blubbery animal so far south. His arrival comes almost exactly 5 years since this one was spotted in the same region. At the time, it was described as a once-in-a-lifetime sighting. For those here today, they're glad that prediction wasn't quite right.
I was thrilled because I'd heard last night that we may get a sighting today, and then obviously I've had some people I've seen and they've said, yeah, so I couldn't wait to finish like my lunch to dash up here and come and have a look at him.
You know, I called earlier when I first found out it was here, and I think just about everybody on the island has been here today.
Orkney is of course a very popular cruise ship destination at the moment. I think it's fair to say the Walrus holidays might just be taking that little bit longer to take off, but they might just have an endorsement after today. David Daly, reporting Scotland, Orkney.
Oh, wonderful sight. Let's see what we can expect from the weekend weather. Chris.
Sally, thank you. Hello there, good evening to you. Well, some lovely spells of sunshine and blue sky for many of us today, but you may have noticed through the course of the afternoon a milky appearance to the sky with high clouds streaming in because there is change of foot as we go overnight. Here's the chart and you can see this cloud edging its way up from England, crossing many parts of the country with some outbreaks of rain. But before it moves all the way north, there will be some clear skies allowing the temperature to fall. -4 there in Inverness and Aberdeen, a few rural parts -6. So it's going to be a cloudy start to the day tomorrow and an increasingly wet one actually, because this warm front edges its way northwards and the rain follows, falling as sleet and snow on the hills and high ground, but rain for most of us, and it will come through in pulses, so it won't rain all day, but you'll get some on and off. Shetland probably having the best of the weather, actually some sunshine for you, 1 or 2 light showers. South of here though, the cloud will have streamed in with that rain following on. And the winds coming in from the east, fresh, occasionally strong. So whilst temperatures on the thermometer will be similar to today's values, it's going to feel colder because of the cloud, the rain and the wind, and that wet weather reaching up towards Lewis and Harris probably through mid to late afternoon. So if you're hill walking or climbing, it's going to be a cold start to the day, frosty in the foothills and the rain edging its way northwards. Again, some sleet and snow above around 400 metres initially, but turning back to rain. And certainly from the east, those winds will be keen, fresh to strong at times. Rest of the afternoon into the evening, the wet weather still with us, continuing to edge its way northwards. Behind it, we're left with a legacy of cloud, some mist and some fog. So, looking ahead towards Sunday, that weather front will have moved up towards the Northern Isles where it's going to sit, so a very different day to come for Shetland on Sunday. Elsewhere, much drier, but it's going to be probably a murky start because we're dragging in warmer air from the south. As it goes over the cold ground, we'll see some low cloud developing. So, Sunday's a dry start for most of us, but a bit murky in places. However, it should improve. It will brighten up. There'll be some sunshine, but West Central Scotland, well, it may take a while to improve here. But come mid-afternoon, sunshine for many and much milder. 10, 11 Celsius with light winds. It's going to feel like spring. Then Monday, well, once again, a bit of mist and murk to start things off, but largely dry through the course of the day. And by mid-afternoon, temperatures up to around 7 to 9 Celsius with light winds. That's the forecast for now.
Thanks so much, Chris. Now, a reminder of tonight's main news. These are the guns found in the home of a former A&E consultant, along with an assassination list. Martin Watt was found guilty of possessing them with intent to endanger life. And that is Reporting Scotland. I'll be back with the headlines at 8 and the late bulletin just after the 10 o'clock news. Until then, from everyone on the team, have a very good evening. Bye-bye.